class style board rep. We had interviews. We had 3 really good candidates, and Alyssa, and I'm going to butcher your last name, so I'm just going to let you say it.
Kowalczyk.
So welcome, and
Thank you.
yeah. All right, now moving on, can I get a roll call vote?
Yes, you can. Jack Sapia.
Hello.
Don Woodworth. Katie Newton.
Yes.
Kim McCormick.
Yes.
Faze Woodworth.
Yes.
And Alyssa Kowalczyk. Yep.
And Paula Kane, Shauna Manthorn, and Mark Sherwood are all excused. All right, if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh. Who is it today?
So Ken Henderson is with us tonight. We are looking to do some work on the website. I think that we put out a tremendous amount of information, and we are looking at how that information is presented and maybe more easily accessible to not only the staff, but the general public as well. As we move through that process, we thought it would be a good idea if Ken could highlight some of the pieces of the webpage now that people may find most interesting or most meaningful.
I'm focusing on the school board website tonight. And this is going to be significantly less interesting than you normally get during the student portion.
You got a flower
of
shirt
this
on.
meeting, I
You're
will
all
say.
set.
This is my Magnum PI collection.
It's working.
So yeah, focusing on the school board website tonight, there's really a couple different ways you can get to it from the district webpage. I'm going to show you both. It's really just personal preference on how you access the that site. So the first way is through the top, through the school board portal. This is the main school board page that you may be familiar with. I'm going to take it from the right to the left here, working, explaining the different boxes. So your school board members are located on the right here, their names, the towns they represent, their email addresses, their terms. There's a link here for our Vimeo archive videos of all the school board meetings the past few years. We have probably thousands of hours of school board meetings up there. This is a little icon that shows you where we stream our school board meetings, and maybe some people don't know, but this year we started streaming live on YouTube and Facebook. So that's something new for this year. Going back over to the left-hand side of the page, I'm going to come back to committees here on the left in a second, but I want to focus on documents. And board documents is the default view you see in the middle of the school board meeting, school board page here. And like Justin was alluding to, there's a lot of information here on this page that we're looking to, which is great. I mean, it's great to be transparent, get that information out there, but it also presents challenges in terms of being intuitive and user-friendly. So this summer, we're going to look into how do we make that more intuitive, and how to get to this information a little bit easier maybe. So these folders work like you just click on them and you drill into them. So if I'm looking for something in particular, let's say an annual report, I'm going to click on reports and then the type of report. So we'll say an annual report, and you'll see them all listed here, the last 20 or so years of annual reports. So again, a lot of information in these folders that we'll be looking at this summer, trying to make that a little bit more user-friendly. Moving down the page here, meeting minutes is a shortcut to that, because that's probably obviously a very popular place to go for people, and that's divvied up by year. So you have the year, 23, 24 here, and then you have the dates of the various meetings of the minutes. Policies and procedures, just want to highlight a couple quick things. The policies themselves are section A through L, and there's a description of what that section is next to it. You'll hear things, procedures for policies. I just want to point out that those procedures are in this folder, the procedures and addendums folder. If you click on that, you'll see a similar structure as the policies, but these are the actual procedures. So not every policy has a procedure, but that those that do are located in this folder, and they have a -R after them. So if you have policy ACAA, its corresponding procedure is ACAA-R, and it'd be located in that folder. So I know that's, sometimes people get lost looking for those procedures, and that's where those are located. Oh, I wanted to show real quick as well for policies and procedures is that SharePoint has its pros and cons. One of the pros is actually the search is pretty decent. So like if I'm going to search for a term here, let's say homework. You'll see it'll come back real quick with a bunch of results. There's actually a policy around homework, IKB. You have the options on the left-hand side here. You can click and narrow down your search. So if I just want to see PDFs, I can click PDFs. Or if I'm looking for presentations, I can click PowerPoint, and that would just bring up the PowerPoints. If it's embedded in a web page or a Word doc, you can click on those as well. There's also this modified date. So if a document was modified in the past, let's say it was modified in the past month, you can actually use this sliding scale to narrow your searches down to when the file was last modified. It's just another way to search for those documents.
Just for the record, Sandy's the guru of that, and she did not know that.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know
So
that?
teacher
No,
was
thanks,
You learned
that's
something.
great.
Well, all right, I'm done. Last thing here on this left-hand side is approved curriculum. Just want to point out, we put our curriculum on the school board website. It's broken down by subject. And then if, again, you drill down here, so if I click on math, you'll see it's broken down by particular grades. Until you get to high school, obviously, they use subjects. So if I want to see second grade approved curriculum, you just click on that 2 folder and it brings it up there. And that's our current approved curriculum that's on the site there. Going back to the committees, I think Kelly's been doing a great job of getting all these consistent and looking the same. And I just want to pick one. I'll pick policy. So this is, if you just click here and it brings you to the policy committee, which is its own SharePoint site. And they're all going to have this very similar look and feel where you have your members on the right-hand side, mission, goals, and updates on the top. Any upcoming meetings will be listed here in the calendar and agendas, and then your approved minutes with that drill down folder again to get to those minutes down at the bottom. So very soon, every committee, school board committee is going to look like that, the same look and feel. So going back out to the main website, I want to show you some developments this past year, which is if you go to boards and then school board, you'll see this menu pop up here. And I put this in a few months ago just to make it easier to get to some of the items so you don't have to go through the SharePoint site. So if you click on this, hover over, and I just want to get to agendas, you just click agendas and there you are. This is the agendas broken down by year. So we put a lot of these one-click items in here to be able to get to those things quicker. Just a note here, budget committee is off of committees and has its own SharePoint site and its own shortcuts right in here. The committees have their own one-clicks as well. You know, we went the policy committee through the SharePoint site before. We can just go to committees and click on it here and get right to it. So just easier way to access some of the those committees. Couple other quick things. I know this is a timely topic, the construction updates. Whenever I get updates or pictures, I put them up on the site, and I've done my best with creating some categories for where these land. I didn't want to do one web page with like 5,000 photos. I wanted to kind of break it up a little bit. So like the Atkinson Belfry has its own section. If you click on that, you'll see, you know, the updates from that. And of course, this summer we'll have a lot more updates and pictures coming that will be going up on that site. So keep your eyes out for that. And then the last thing I just want to mention, I don't know if everybody's aware, but we do the school board in 60 seconds updates. So after every school board meeting, the day after, we try to, by the end of that day after, get these out there. And this is just real quick, as the name alludes to, a minute or less long highlights of that particular meeting from that night. So if you missed the meeting, this is a great way just to give me the, you know, the quick overview of what happened.
Misses the meeting.
Hmm?
Who misses the meeting?
And that's all I really had in terms of going over that school board site and everything.
It was really good, thanks.
Nice job.
Yeah,
Thank you.
really well organized.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All
And
right, thank you.
we know you'll have the whole thing remapped and things by like Sunday evening. Right?
Yeah, just you didn't say which Sunday evening, so sure.
Next, we are at delegates and individual. First up is going to be Carol Hillard.
Hi, I'm Carol Hillard. I've spoken to you guys before. I'm really just gonna kind of keep it simple. After I went and paid my tax bill today in Danville for just a regular modest home, not anything huge, $6,400 in addition to the $7,800 I paid in December, almost $14,000. This is unsustainable. This board represents we the people. What is the breaking point? Do you want us to pay 15, 20, 25 for everybody out there watching on this TV? Please, you gotta start getting involved in these meetings. We are angry. I am furious. Now you have a boat behind the school. I mean, what is going on here? Please return the $11 million to the Timberlane Regional School District taxpayers. This is ridiculous.
Next is gonna be Kara Malo.
I have extra copies. They're not perfect, but if anyone didn't have a chance to staple them, if you wanted to pass down, it's just
Sure.
kind of a draft of a letter. Is the timer started or?
Yep, your time has started.
Okay. Dear members of the Timberlane School Board and Atkinson community, I'm a little nervous. My name is Kara Malo. To give you a little background, my family lives in Atkinson and I'm a mom of 2 students in the district who are sitting here with me tonight alongside my husband, Ryan. I'm a veteran teacher of 17 years with a master's degree in literacy education. I have an impeccable history of teaching, in which case my intent for providing what is best for each individual student has never been questioned until what I'm about to share with you today. I'm also an educational entrepreneur with a full literacy curriculum that is approved as a New Hampshire Learn Everywhere program provider. But what I come to share today isn't about me. It's about the toxic culture that I experienced while working as a long-term sub in my son's 4th grade class at Atkinson Academy, and ultimately the impact this environment had on the students in that class, maybe that whole school, including my son. When we learned that Mrs. Eichen would not be coming back for the remainder of the school year, we were devastated. After a good amount of pondering, I figured I would be the best person for this position. So I applied with the most positive intentions that you could ever imagine and was hired to take on the role of the long-term sub for Mrs. Eichen's 4th grade class for the remainder of the school year. My time in this position began in the beginning of February, feeling warm and supported, and abruptly ended on field day, June 6th, in what I feel was a horrific way. The morning of June 6th, I woke up in the best mood as most teachers out of school would when a year comes to an end, but especially because it was field day. Although field day was technically canceled due to the forecast, I had an excited energy to still make it special for the class. Prior to this day, about a month before some students were acting up, which was impacting the classroom environment as a whole, I kindly asked the principal for support as it was a tough position I was in, being my son's, Owen's mom, and his peers teacher. The principal joined the class in a positive pep talk, and we all collectively agreed that if we were not following classroom expectations and or being disrespectful, they would take a walk to the office. After about a month had gone by and the behavior of the class was fairly good, so I never had to send any students. However, sadly, I had to send 1 student down the day before field day. Then the next day, I knew that the student would be upset. I went down to the office and I was presented in with defense and almost as if I was being interrogated. I had someone cover the class and I walked down. The next day was field day. I have to go a little faster here, I'm realizing. After students come in from recess, I was presented with another situation in which case a student talked back to me in front of the class, feeling under pressure, wanting to make sure that I treat all students in the class with the same expectation. I asked her to take a walk to the office. I spoke to the student in the hallway in a talking tone and explained that it's been a tough week and it's time for a walk. Again, not enjoying the feeling of having to send students to the office and understanding this would trigger an emotional response, I asked the para if I could step out. Is that a minute?
That's 3 minutes, ma'am. Your time's up.
Oh, gosh, this is killing me. I should have timed myself.
Okay.
Long story, can I continue a little bit?
No, ma'am, your time is up. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
No.
What?
No, you're wrong.
No, ma'am, your
Okay.
time is up.
That's okay.
I was trying to extend that.
No, I mean, you can read my letter. It just presents a pretty sad story, honestly, about the toxic culture and the trickle-down effect that it's having on the kids and I'll be the one who has to take the position, and everybody needs to look at this as a bigger issue than just me, and that's all I'm gonna say.
Did I get a motion to move the last 24 minutes of delegates individuals to the end of the meeting, please?
So moved.
Got a motion to have a second? Second by Bree. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained. All right, cool. Next on is approval of the minutes. Meeting minutes.
I'll also post it on the Timberlane website for everybody to see the full story.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am. Have a
you.
good evening.
Thank you, you too.
We do have some non-public meeting minutes that day as well, but we're gonna do the public ones first. Make a motion to accept the meeting minutes from the June 6th meeting. Have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Jack. Any discussion? The motion is second. All those in favor? Opposed? And abstained. 501. I was like, opposed, wait a minute. I know, right? Now you do have non-public meeting minutes in your possession.
Make a motion to accept those.
A motion by Jack to accept the non-public meeting minutes and a second by Dawn. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Wasn't much there.
Opposed and abstained. If you would pass those back now. Let's see, first up on the agenda is the annual special education update. On down, Kelly.
Kelly, welcome.
Hi.
I just wanted to give some like tidbits or kind of snapshot. You saw some of the graphs that were in. You probably got two different versions of it. But our trend is that we're going up in special ed. And this year alone, we had 100 students that were referred for an evaluation, and out of the 100 students that were evaluated, 72 became eligible. So it's a pretty high percentage of students. A little backstory, I just want to let you know, for every evaluation, you can see that it's going to take a special educator around 10 hours to do it, a PT possibly 10 hours, an OT 10 hours, a speech pathologist 10 hours, and a psychologist 10 hours. So it's a lot of time. Those evaluations on top of their services, writing IEPs and doing all that stuff. So just as a perspective for that, our staff are strapped to get all those evaluations and things done. That's why contracted services I have to keep coming back to, because we can't balance that out. More and more kids are coming at an earlier age. That's one of the other things that I pointed out. 17 referrals that we have for our early ed kids, right now, and that's when I wrote this. We have increased how many kids that we're going to evaluate over the summer already. This week alone, we've had 2 families that have moved in with kids that are special ed from out of state that are going to have to go through that process. So it's continuing, and it's a trend that's going across the country, right? It's not something that is just new to us. All of our towns are increasing with their percentages, and some of the percentages are a little bit deceiving in their numbers and how they're going up or they're going down. Kids are moving in and out, and that kind of trickles it. The other thing is that I have to be honest, on the day that I pulled Atkinson is on a different day than I pulled Sandown North, only because you're going back many, many years and you're looking into it. But they're still going up in many schools, and the ones that are going down are going to, I bet if I pulled it in September, October, it's going to go up. So what are we doing about that? So one of the things is that we're adding programs to our district, which is really good and really exciting. So we have an ED program right now for students, emotional disability for students that are in elementary school. We have a program with a collaboration with the New England Center for Children at Atkinson Academy for students that have autism. And in the new school year, we're going to have a program for our students at Sandown Central. That will be for students with NECC collaboration that have autism. And then another program that is for students that are intensive needs that at the Sandown Central level, which is accessible for kids throughout the district. The one thing about NECC program is that will be the only program in the state of New Hampshire for those preschool students, which is really exciting that we're catching them, early and providing those services. But we have to pay attention to the fact that our trend is that we're going up. That one of the great things is, and that I'm thankful for, is the facilitators. That's going to be a really, really good help. Right now, we're all stretched and we, get pulled. Best intention is that I can go to Danville or that somebody else can go to the high school or whatever. The facilitator positions are going to be really, really valuable in our schools. It's the point person, it's daily. Anybody who's been, and had the person in the building, like the high school or the middle school, they're there all the time and they can help. When you're at the elementary school and you only have somebody that can come in once in a while, it makes it really hard for people who need some of that help. So that's going to be exciting. It's also going to be exciting for compliance for us, which the state likes to pull our reports all the time and see where we are for different things. So that'll be the kind of the conduit to our staff to be able to help them and understand those pieces of it. And then really to summarize, I feel like I'm going really, really fast, but we have a packed agenda tonight with a lot of information. Yeah. Is that special ed is going in the right direction. I feel like that we're really making, headway. We're getting programs. We're trying to address some of the things that we need to do. Exciting things are that we have hired some positions, which is like anybody who's goes into frontline on a regular basis, looks for Fran's notes and they're to be like, yes. And so it's great. So we're attracting people that are coming and they want to be here. And our staff who is here are coming back for another year, even though we had a really hard year last year with staff, but we're at a better place right now with even contracted people that we've reached out to or people that are just excited to come to Timberlane to be able to work. So I think the relief I can feel from people that are like, we're making headway is really, really exciting.
Awesome. Don?
Yeah, a couple of questions. One is were there any particular, I looked at all those bar graphs and you're, I see a percentage. It doesn't necessarily tell me a number. I don't need to know a number, but were there any things in there that you were surprised by, alarmed by, or feel we need to be preparing in a special way for because we're not apparently meeting a need?
Yeah, so some of it is when I look at disability. So I love data and probably get too far down the rabbit hole, not like Mark does, but enough. There are definitely some trends in identification for students that we need to look at what we can do to support them before we get that far. So some of our disabilities we can really work with our kids on to not be that far behind. But we definitely have a trend in the district that we're identifying more early ed students, which is great. But it's making developmental delay or some of those areas of disability look really skewed in our results because it's only for a certain age that you can have that disability, and then it gets, it goes into other areas after that. So we know, the other thing is that we know that some of the students that were identified at a younger age were a director a couple times ago had people identify in a certain area and it's changed. So those kids have an identification that is changing once they hit the middle school. So other health impairment, everybody went under other health impairment. If you had an emotional or you had ADHD or whatever, you went under other health. You hit the middle school, then they started breaking it up. So we're tracking those to actually see what it is that the disability really would be. So take it away about the OHI or ED.
The state averages, or you look at the different schools that you would list there, and the state numbers, they're all high in a sense, but what do you consider high or too high? Like if I'm looking at district-wide, if we're at 15, 20, 26%, of our students being identified, is there anything alarming about the number in and of itself, or is it really just a matter of, we're being very accurate and we understand more about, what's going on in kids' brains, and that will meet criteria so we get them the help? I mean, is it a positive that we're identifying that number, or is it something that's we need to look at and change?
I think we need to look at identification. I think that is across the board. We need to just look at, are we over-identifying? Or we just happen to have a population, and you can see that in the results, right? We kind of fluctuate. You might be at 13%, then you're at 17%, then you're back down to 12, then you're at 27. It's the population that you have. I think the one thing is that we need to evaluate our students to find out if they actually have a disability, but it goes to before, what have we done to help them before we get to the point that we are going to special ed? So what are we doing before for those students to help them? What the percentage is, the state 17.6% is kind of where they, hover around. The 17% for many of our schools were higher than that, like by a lot. But you can kind of see it fluctuates. The high school, is down to 18%. At one point, they were much higher. It's population and kids that move in and kids that move out.
I know there was, while you were working at the high school, and I say you were doing a lot of celebrating kids working from, completing a program where they would no longer need, full services. They might need partial, or actually have learned to, successfully be successful as a student and move forward without the same support that they had before. Is that still a focus, for you is getting kids to, basically wean off of some of the supports?
Well, it's always our focus to be able to teach them the strategies to be successful. I think it happens before, and I think we're in the right direction in the district that we're looking at MTSS or supports before they are. So at the high school, you could go to intervention for reading or for math. That helped a lot of students to not go into special ed. We have to teach them, though, all kids on how to be independent and how to, work to be up to their full potential. So some of our kids did apply the strategies that they, learned, and they were very successful with that. But it takes a while for them to get up. So the high school, their lower percentage, maybe because of all the other people that worked before to teach them the strategies that they needed to be successful. And then they get to the high school and they're able to apply it with different teachers and different teaching styles and stuff like that.
Okay.
Jack.
So congratulations on the new staffing. Do you think that with who you've hired, that that's gonna offset some of the contract labor that we had to go out to this year?
Well, for some of them. Some of the positions that we still have a hard time with are the psychologists and speech pathologists, but we had people apply, so that's a positive thing. We had people apply. We did interview people. Fran did a really good job of getting people like where they should be. We just compete with Mass. The Mass border really is hard, but we're in the right direction. We have people that are applying. Last year, we had open positions that all year long, nobody applied for.
We've been looking for a speech pathologist for decades, right? They're hard to come by.
Some of them, yeah.
So my other question is, when you look at like how we rank as a state average, do you break that down? And I didn't have a chance to go through this in great detail, but you would think that we would want to compare ourselves to like districts, or do you see a big difference, say, in some of the big cities in the state from a percentage standpoint? I'm trying to see, how do we have an inordinate amount of, is the program inordinately large compared to other similar districts, or?
No, I think that we all are pretty similar in our percentages, but it goes by years. That's the thing. We could be high one year, Wyndham could be lower. Salem could be higher than we could be. So we all kind of, we have bubbles of kids that are in kind of different age groups, and that makes our percentage go up. So we're pretty close. There are definitely districts that are much lower. They may have a more robust MTSS system or early intervention system that they put in place and focused on that. They may have different programs that they offer that have made their numbers go down. So yeah, I mean, I think we're in the right direction that we're doing that. We're working on that. And so I see it as being a positive.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions for?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's go. Budget transfer request for special education. Might as well just say.
That's why I asked the question.
So we're at the end of the year and we just need some more money to cover some of the costs for speech. I think it's the speech line. I think I'd know, but yeah, for speech.
So it's coming from the high school tuition line, is that correct?
Yes.
Which is $85,000. Does anybody have any questions?
Other than that, we're just really confident that we're not gonna be needing that high school tuition line based upon some of the supports and services that kids have received through the year, so.
Okay, so the transfer is not gonna affect anybody else?
No, student.
Alright. Someone wanna make a motion to accept the budget transfer for $84,000?
So we'll accept the transfer for 87.
I'll second John's motion.
Motion made by Don, seconded by Jack. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained. All right, thank you. Thank you. All right, next is our enrollment update. Lucy.
Welcome, Lucy.
Thank you.
Good evening. So the enrollment report you have in front of you doesn't look much different than it did last time. We have finalized more early education requests, so you see those numbers have shifted a bit. We do have one grade level, second grade at Danville that you've seen we've been watching. We continue to watch. It hasn't really fluctuated much, but it is right there on that pressure point.
Okay. And when would you decide like, hey, we need to probably get another teacher?
At this point, it hasn't met the policy, so we're watching to see how enrollment, typically in the summertime, in the next few weeks is when we start to see if families are withdrawing, so that's gonna be important. And then again, late August, we see withdrawals. So, right, we're really watching for the new registrations that come in the online platform, and then students letting the school know that or the families letting school know that they're withdrawing their students because they're moving.
Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, Bree, go ahead.
I'm just wondering from the admin side, do you feel like there is a position somewhere that can be repurposed at this point or not?
Yes, we've been looking at what we have. We have several open paraeducator positions that we could potentially look to see if we could repurpose. That's, we have ongoing conversation with special ed, as Kelly was just saying. We've had some families move in, and as they go through the identification process and we evaluate them, we won't know just yet if there's a need for paraeducators for those new students. So as we're working through that, we're gonna keep a very close watch on the positions that are open right now to make sure that we're providing enough of a cushion in the event that we need those paras to work with students, but yet potentially look to see if we could rely on those to meet the need.
So we have a backup plan that we don't have to decide on tonight.
Yes, I feel confident with that, yeah.
Kim, did you want?
Nope, I'm good.
Any other questions for Lucy? Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Lucy.
Thank you.
Right. Next up is Atkinson Academy interventionist position.
So actually, I should thank Bree for the question because it allowed me to somewhat introduce the concept of where we would look to repurpose and redefine positions. So As you'll see in the summary before you, a large focus for our district for many years and moving into the future is around providing what we refer to as multi-tiered systems of support. And so what that really looks at is beyond core instruction in the classroom, looking at data and identifying student needs for academics, but also behavior. In this case, we're talking about academics, to identify students who might need additional small group instruction outside of the classroom, right, in addition to what they're already receiving. A lot of that work right now at the elementary level is provided through grant funds. So, and that's really wrapped up in federal guidelines around the allocation of federal funding. So Title I funds are the funds that provide right now Title I tutors to our elementary schools. Schools receive Title I funding through free and reduced lunch numbers through the state. And so Atkinson Academy currently is not an elementary school that qualifies for that type of funding. In the past, we had 2 full-time interventionist positions at Atkinson Academy. Over the past 5 years, those positions have been redefined to meet classroom instruction needs as our enrollment has been shifting. So we no longer have any positions or the option to use federal funding to address this need at Atkinson. And so it really is an issue of equity where students in our other schools do have access to this level of support aside from classroom teachers, paraeducator support. And we have noticed a difference in academic performance. Anecdotally, we've been tracking it, but you know, it's definitely a need. And so along those lines, we've been looking at our open paraeducator positions. I've been working with Maria Watkins and HR to make sure that these positions are in the budget for next year. They are. We are targeting regular education paraeducator positions to not pull from special education right now. And we believe that we could repurpose or redefine 2 of those positions to become an Atkinson interventionist position. That would work, and it does require full teaching certification as well, if that's something you're wondering. So we are requesting permission to redefine those positions to meet this need.
Anybody have any questions? Yeah, we're good.
You said in the past that Atkinson actually had 2 positions. How many are in the other schools?
So the positions in the other schools right now so Title I is governed by strict guidelines around distribution. So Danville right now is identified as our school with the highest need. We have 2 Title I tutor positions that function as interventionists. Pollard and Sandown North each have 1. We also have an interventionist at Sandown North and at Pollard. So we have a definite need at Atkinson.
Jack, go ahead.
So you say it's about equity and about needs. I guess, did those 2 positions that originally were there, now they're teachers is basically what you're
They were
saying?
redefined to be, yes, over the past 5 years, yeah. Yes. To meet higher priority needs, right, with limited funding and limited positions that were flexible for us.
And yeah, I just, and what is the difference? That was my question. I kind of lost my train of thought. Sorry, which is rare for me, but no. So when you say interventionist, what's the difference between intervention and a special needs student? Is that a fair question?
Yes, when you I believe you're asking about the difference between, well, intervention could be something that is provided to a regular ed student and a special ed student. It's a process and a service for all students. So it's really independent of the IEP process. So we use data, we have different tiers that we speak of. Tier 1 is whole classroom, all students, that's what they get. They all get differentiated, personalized instruction in their classroom. And then we identify through data different tiered levels of data to identify students who would qualify for what we refer to as Tier 2. That's small group instruction, really targeted at skills that they need support in addition to what they get in the classroom. Tier 3
is even an even higher level of need based on the data. That would be not so much small group instruction, but maybe individualized instruction. It could be through an IEP. It could be with a case manager. It might not be. You could have a tier 3 student who's a regular education student who has that level of need.
And when that level of need, do the parents get notified? Is this like a special program? Do the parents get involved in this and they, or does the teacher just pop into the class and work individually with a student?
So all students right now at the elementary level, we're talking elementary, and I could talk middle school if you'd like to, but I'll focus on elementary.
Middle school's
We
too
right
scary.
now, in all of our schools and our schedule, we build in what's called a personalization block of time in the schedule. And so all students during that time receive targeted instruction beyond the core. So it might be enrichment for students who are performing and achieving at a high level. That might be with a classroom teacher. It might be with another teacher at their grade level because they often share students during that block of time. It could be a tier 2 intervention. It could be pull-out instruction through special education. All students have that opportunity.
My question is, when we implement this with a student, do parents get notified that here's how your child is tracking and this is what we're doing? So in other words, it doesn't come as a
So all students get data, or all parents rather, get data reports from the data that we use. So whether it's through iReady, for example, is our universal screener, all those reports get sent home 3 times a year. That's one of our primary ways of determining the data that we use to determine tiered instruction. If it's Title I, there is what we call a parent compact that we send home information to the families to let them know your child has qualified for Title I services. And then the parents would sign that, indicating that they agree for their child to be part of the program. So there are different requirements depending on the type of intervention and where it's coming from. So yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
I knew you'd give me a great answer.
They're good questions, Jack.
They are good questions. Thank you.
So one other question is,
Yeah, Don, go ahead.
just simply, all those interventions and just the whole, I don't know if you consider that RTI or what,
Yeah,
but
yes.
but all that work that's done with regular ed teachers to a certain degree throughout that
Mhm.
level of intervention until your 3rd tier.
Yes. Yeah.
Helps to actually keep the number of kids who are utilizing
Even if it
No, it's not. I'm just
But-
making a statement. I feel like it's
Yeah,
good. We can go
okay,
ahead and go
yeah.
on. So does anyone have any more
Not much longer.
questions about the position for this? Alright, so this is an action item. So does anybody want to make a motion to approve the redefinition of an open and vacant paraeducator position to create a 1 FTE regular education interventionist position at Atkinson Academy?
So moved.
Moved by Jack. Do I have a second? Second by Bree. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained? All right.
Could I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah, go ahead.
The motion that you read said 1 para-educator. I believe that we will need to redefine 2.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I just read literally
Got
what's
it.
in the thing. So
Okay.
does it need to be 2?
yes, likely.
2
Yeah.
paraeducators
Are
to
we
make
okay
one
with yes?
full-time educator position.
Yes.
Okay,
think that's where-
so yes, so
Okay.
please make a clarification of it being 2 instead of 1.
Thank you.
Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Next is annual federal funding authorization. Right? Yes.
Maria, could you join us?
She's Let's not go outside.
Door closed.
You're only gonna get struck once, but.
Oh, goodness.
Jeez, Maria, that's quite an introduction.
She's going for it. Hi, Maria.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, Maria. So tell us about the federal grant funds.
So this is a policy that is mandated by the Department of Education and ultimately by the federal government. Its purpose is to ensure that the money that we receive for grants is handled according to the laws and regulations of the federal government. Basically, it's pretty much a template that is provided to us. And last year we got audited for all of our federal grants, and the policy was what it needed to be. So we didn't have to make any changes. After the audit, nothing was recommended, and it had all the provisions that needed to be there.
And so this is something that happens every year, that we have to authorize the super, assistant super, and the business administration to go after grants, federal funding grants is pretty much what this is. Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Maria while she's here about this? Yep, go ahead.
How many grants do we usually submit and then act with?
So we have Title II, Title I, Title II, Title IV, IDEA, IDEA for preschool portion. We had the ESSER funds, which we no longer have. I think those are.
Those are,
regular
so
ones.
this typically covers non-competitive grants that are determined by allocation based on federal guidelines. Those are the ones that Maria just referenced, are the ones that we qualify currently and have traditionally. There are other ones like the Stronger Connections Grant, SAFE grants. Those are competitive grants that we would apply for. The administration of those funds would still fall under this category, but it covers federal funds.
So anything that has federal funding is covered by this policy. So the safety grants that we apply for, like for the campgrounds and.
Yes. For like this.
Okay. Also grants that are federal, but they're funded by the Department of Education in the state.
Do you have any other questions for Maria on this? Again, this is something we have to do every year. Oh, Dawn, go ahead.
Maria, I hope you have a short form for this. This is so rich in content. I don't know how you keep track of it all, but
Grants are never short.
No. No,
so,
just to get money, but they're not short and not easy.
very impressive where you were able to solve all the grant requirements and getting to approval. Thank you.
All right, so this is an action item. So does anyone make a motion to authorize the superintendent, assistant superintendent, and business administrator to apply for and receive on behalf of the district federal and state grants and funding, and to file such authorization with the NH Department of Education?
So moved. I'm not repeating it, but yes.
Motion made by Kim. Do I have a second?
I would suggest a new board member second the
Second.
motion.
Dawn seconded it. All right, any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained. All right, Maria. Policies is our next agenda item, and Shauna is not here tonight, so I've asked Sandy if she'd give a brief rundown of anything in particular. that
Sure.
kind of pops out
I'm
about these
happy to give
policies.
just a play-by-play, if you'd like. You have 6 policies, I believe, in the packet that are coming to you, all for a first read.
Okay.
So the first 3 that are in the packet, DJ, DJB, and DJE, are part of the policy committee's kind of comprehensive review. If you recall back a month or 2 ago, the board directed policy committee to review all policies connected to financing. And so we have been moving through that. We've been looking at all of those policies in succession. DJ and DJB, DJ is purchasing, DJB is purchasing procedures. We did review as a committee, we compared it to the model policy through the New Hampshire School Board Association. There have been no changes since those were last reaffirmed here, but it's been 10 years. So the recommendation of policy committee was to move this forward to the school board to reaffirm with no changes, because it has been 10 years since they've been reviewed, but based on that review, we're not recommending any changes to the current language. So I'm happy to pause there if anyone has any questions on those two.
Did you have a question, Jack?
Yeah, I would make a recommendation to this board to approve it for first and second read. The policy DJ
DJ and
DJB has been out there since we've been
Yeah.
bantering that around, and the policy committee has done, I mean, one of the tie-ups there was that we realized that educational purchasing was different than facilities purchasing. Is that fair to say, Sandy? They kind of
Yeah.
follow two different paths, so we had to manage through those waters. But I think we're ready to move forward with first and second read tonight.
So I think, yeah, Jack, you're referencing, I think, DJE.
Ready?
Yep, which is connected, and you're absolutely right. Everything you said is
Yeah.
Reflects what we talked about in policy committee. Just to clarify, the first two, we are not recommending any changes, so those would be to reaffirm. DJE, which is the policy that Mr. Sapia is referencing, there have been some changes since the board last saw these that went to policy committee. You'll see they're redlined, the changes that are in there. Some of those, the board already voted to direct the superintendent to make those changes. We've been following those changes for several months now at this point.
Since March 8th.
Since March 8th. Some additional updates that Mr. Sapia referenced at the bottom. You'll see additional proposed language connected to educational materials that are only available from a sole source, providing authorization for us to use that process. And then at the top of the next page, there's some new language that gives discretion to the superintendent in collaboration with the school board chair to make purchases in instances when health and safety is in danger. So really in an emergency situation or when an action is necessary to prevent the closing of schools. That language, we looked at 10 different districts, I think. We looked at multiple districts across the state and their policies, and this language was pretty consistent district to district. And so the policy committee is recommending that that be added to this policy.
Yeah, and we also had discussed that here at the board level about making that kind of change. So, I mean, really the first two are procedural in nature and no changes in the second one. The last one is, I mean, it's where it should be in my humble opinion, so.
Yeah, we'll let Sandy finish getting through the stuff and you add in then at the end we can vote and do whatever and bundle.
Okay. So those first three, and it was helpful.
No, you were good.
Those first three are connected to that review of finance policies. The other ones, just to kind of give you context about those, the next policy is, I believe in your packet, EFAA, is that the next one you have?
Correct.
That one is around meal charging. This policy has some updates. You'll see them in red. It's slightly lengthier than some of the other policies you see. That language reflects model school board policy language, updates to RSA, and also recommendations that came out of a recent audit around civil rights complaints and processes. And so you'll see some of that language reflected. That was a specific request that came out of the audit. So you have that before you for a first read. The next two, IHBAB, special ed evaluations, that is a policy that has been outdated. There have been recent changes to legislation around special ed evaluations and changes to law as recent as 2022, and our policy is outdated. So we are recommending that we adopt the New Hampshire School Board Association policy that has incorporated all of those legal changes and pieces that have to be present. So we've moved that to you for a first read. And then the last one, IKFC, just if any of you are looking through past minutes, that is a policy that we had on the books, but it was titled Graduation of Home Education Students, which was unique to Timberlane. Most other districts, the New Hampshire School Board Association, that policy is what you see in front of you. It speaks about diplomas for students with cognitive disabilities. And so this policy the board repealed as it was written connected to the graduation of home education students this past year in the fall. We are now bringing it back to you with the correct verbiage, with the model policy language, and a recommendation that we adopt this. We currently do not have a policy that speaks to this. So And we did look into this. We had 2 reads of all of these policies and multiple reads, as Mr. Sapia pointed out in the case of DJE. So
Thank you for that. Jack, did you have anything else that you wanted to add to these policies since you are on the policy committee?
No, I'd like to make do you want us to do these one at a time or in clumps?
Hold that thought. One, policy DJ, DJB, and DJE. I feel like this board has thoroughly kicked these, and the policy committee has done a really good job of going through and doing really good work. So is the board comfortable with those 3 policies, making a motion to approve it for first and second read and ultimately adoption?
Second Jack's motion.
All right, make your motion for those
I make a
3.
motion to accept DJ, DJB, and DJE for first and second read.
Okay, second. Motion made by Jack, seconded by Bree. Any discussion about these 3 policies?
I was just gonna say,
Yeah, go ahead.
in light of the fact that we don't have our members here, but they are well in
Yeah.
tune with,
Mhm.
so that's it.
All right, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? All right, now you can either do these next 3 as clumps, or we can do them one by one, but I say we keep these as just first reads.
That was gonna be the motion. So I'll make a motion to accept EFAA, IHBAB, and IKFC for first read.
Got a motion for first read? Seconded by Bree. Any other discussion on these 3 motions, these 3 policies? All right, all those in favor? Opposed and abstained? Thank you, guys. All right. Unassigned fund balance?
Unassigned fund balance, I'm happy to speak to that tonight. The last update the board had was on June 6th, so here we are on June 20th, and we'll kind of provide the next row. There's no substantial change, just as I reported at the last meeting, or impact to the unassigned fund balance as was reported out to the board on May 2nd, so that number still stands at around $11 million.
Okay.
I want to be really clear that the school administration has not brought forth any projects in Essex to the budget. We do not anticipate doing so by the end of the fiscal year. And I would anticipate not hearing any requests from the board reverse direction as well. Want to do a couple things tonight is review the timeline that we put out to folks so they can understand the process moving forward. I want to mention again some of the drivers that we've identified in that unassigned fund balance. And then I want to give the board just some food for thought for some future considerations. So as the timeline is going to move forward, our fiscal year, everyone here knows in this table, ends at the end of June. The month of July is really spent reconciling the invoices that we will receive after the fiscal year and cleaning some pieces. During the month of August, we'll move through the audit with our auditors. Then we will submit 2 forms, the DOE 25 and the MS 25 on September 1st. That is the date that the unassigned fund balance number becomes static and will not change anymore. Up until that point, there will always be a revolutionary change as we're moving through and adjusting things as they're happening. So it's fluid, it's flexible, but it will become static on that date. That is the financial reporting, the total financial reporting of the school district. The unassigned fund balance is a piece of that report. So that's the general timeline for folks. Reminding people of some of those drivers. On the expense side of things, we talked about savings in special education tuition. This is a direct result of some support and some funding from the state level with Health and Human Services that we had anticipated some high costs. We did not receive those, so we're seeing some money in that category. Special education transportation was another driver at about $500,000. Unlike regular transportation, that's not a static fixed invoice every time. There are multiple factors that influence that. How many stops are on that route? Is there a mentor, or is there someone else riding on the bus to support? Is there medical needs on that bus? How much mileage are they doing? What kind of other medical supports may the student need? So those things are kind of day to day and route to route. We have looked at those things, and we are not receiving the services that we were contracted for. So we've got some savings because the services haven't been provided. That's not great news, because what it means is our kids are not getting what we need to be providing them, but we're not paying for services there that are not being provided. So the expense side, the emergency fund, there were no emergencies this year. That's totaling about $500,000. So that's sitting there as well. Let's not have an emergency within the next 5 or 6 calendar days of the fiscal year. And then we've also talked about salaries and benefits that there's the insurance part that we had come in under budget for the guaranteed maximum rate. But we've also got open positions and positions that we've hired younger people in on the salary scale. So that's also having an impact. On the revenue side, we have the trustees of the trust fund, $1 million that's coming on that piece. Again, to remind the folks, that was a warrant article that was placed to the voters that helping to replace the boilers at the school district. And the warrant allowed us to reach to the trustee of the trust fund to get reimbursed the 100% cost of that work that was paid out of the last operating budget. But we'll see that on the books this year as a revenue piece. There's also extended tuition. We've collected tuitions. This is not just kindergarten tuition. This is all tuition, but we've got more there than we thought we were going to be collecting. That's a driver as well. And lastly, there's $500,000 of interest on the revenue side that we did not anticipate or expect. So those are kind of the big pieces of that 11 million number. 4 things to think about, I think, moving forward. July will be the month of invoices. It's also mostly the fiscal year for those companies. So July is the busiest invoiced month here. We're going to be receiving a lot and processing those. We also just ran our last payroll. So in addition to running that large expense side, there's also a lot of salary and stipend pieces that get cleaned up at this time of year. Say someone is coaching or doing something that's an extracurricular club, they're not paid 26 times over the course of the year. It could be annually or it could be quarterly. So we'll have those coming to bear as well. One thing I wanted to point out with the salary numbers is that in addition to having open positions, the other factor driving that number is we had 80 people leave this district last year. Okay. This year we've cut that number in half. I think it reported at some point recently we're at 40. But think about those 80 people, if they had been here a long time, are at the higher paid of the salary scale. And if we're bringing in people with less experience in the lower end of that salary scale, that delta is going to sit in the unassigned fund throughout the year. So we had a large number of people leave last year. So we're going to expect, and talking with Maria today, that delta may be a little bit larger than we had first anticipated. And lastly, I gave you a CIP committee an update the other day when we met as a subcommittee. There's still, close to $600,000 sitting in the budget for CIP, not yet expended and not yet under contract to be expended. And I know the CIP committee had a conversation about that. I would encourage the board members who sit there to kind of give an update about what the tone was at that meeting. The next time I think you'll hear from me of the unassigned fund balance is on July 18th. We'll have, another kind of ways to go through, and we'll see how these 4 future considerations continue to play out. But again, what we report in July will change for what we report in August, and it will become static on September 1st.
And if you stated it, I apologize, but part of that unassigned fund balance is also the $2 million payment for the lease, correct?
Yes, that is also in there. Yes,
Okay.
Absolutely.
Anybody have any questions? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Kim.
I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you. That's very, very detailed information and it's important. But I also want to make it very, very clear, and I think you said it too, but I also want to make it clear and to the board, and I think you all agree, there is no intention of spending any of that balance for any special projects, anything. The intention of this board, for me personally, I will say my own self, is to return that to the taxpayer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe this board has always held that we would give back that money and be fiscally responsible. And like what Mr. Krieger stated, we have no new projects are being get to us. So once June 30th hits, it's done. That's going back to the taxpayers once because those books are closing, once they do the audits and everything. But other than just getting invoices and paying out the stuff that we've already been using, that's it. I mean, it's going back. So yeah, Jack, go ahead.
So I'm going to say it the way it is. The budget that we're working off of right now was created 2 boards ago. And the reality is I see everything on social media. I see all the levels of information going out there, and there is so much disinformation and there's so much half-truths. I am just tired of the lack of respect we all have for each other. And I think it's fair to say that this board has done a relatively good job. Perfect by no stretch of the imagination, but things don't always appear the way that they are. So what I'll say is, for the last at least month, for us to expend anything, it would have had, there were no $11 million contracts, no $9 million contracts, no $2 million contracts. There's not even a $500,000 contract, the one in the RFP that was going to be proposed. So there was nothing there. We couldn't do it. There's at least a 14-day window from the time the RFP gets goes out to bid before we can even take a bid. So this gaslighting of they're gonna go out and spend all the money is just factually untrue. And I'm gonna address it because it's one of maybe 3 or 4 issues that people are resting their hats on. The boat. I'm gonna talk about that briefly. It was $700. The reality is, and you don't know this unless you've been around for a long time, year after year after year, we expended thousands of dollars for laborers being on their hands and knees, replacing sprinkler heads, the pump irrigating the pond. You would get clogged, break for 2 weeks, get started up again, break for another 2 weeks. We had to spend $10,000 on an infield, I think it was in 2016, because it had completely burnt out because we couldn't get any water on it. So yeah, we spent $700 on the boat because we did the irrigation pond, but that's to save money for the taxpayers long term. I personally will not expend a dime unless I think it is in the best interest of the district or the safety of the children. Those are my 2 motivating factors. So to piggyback on what Kim said, and a number of board members have said it over the course of the last couple months, that we didn't plan any big projects. There were no big projects on the table. One thing I would have loved to have done, and people may not like this, but here's my logic. I would have liked to take in a portion of that money and fix the envelope of the high school, but that takes about 8 or 9 months to do it and do it right. And I would have, say it cost $500,000 to do that. It's a job that will have to be done at some point in time. Every year you wait, inflation will grab a hold of some of your money. And I was gonna say, just use a round number, $500,000 to do that. I would have said then we would have taken or committed to not borrowing another $500,000 on the lease, which would have saved us another 5%. That's the way this board thinks. That's how we try to manage the money responsibly. I'm just really tired of the disrespect. I don't think we earned it. I don't think we deserve it. We do the best we can. And we're working off of a budget created a while back. And the reality is, as Justin pointed out, where there are a couple mistakes here and there, bumps in the road, it's a big organization, 1,000 employees. And it's a big, they're big campuses. So I want everyone to put their heads on their pillows tonight, knowing we did the best we could. In all likelihood, the spin is just too much for me. No one deserves it. These people here, they're all volunteers. They're all volunteers. There are a lot of things that compose your tax rate. It's town planning. The town of Atkinson has a planning board that's been in place for almost 40 years, volunteers. We have the lowest, if not one of the lowest tax rates in the state. And that's because the town was properly planned out. That's one of the driving factors. One of the things we painted ourselves in the corner on, and I'm spieling now, but we kicked the can down the road. We felt good about level funding or zero funding the capital line for years because it made you feel good. It cost us tens of thousands of dollars in inflationary costs. And now we've painted ourselves into the corner. And if you go back and you watch all the meetings like I did, going back 10, 15 years, people talked about where we would be here today because we didn't chip away at it little by little. So hopefully moving forward, we can chip away at it in a proper fashion. I'm completely sympathetic to, we're all dealing with inflation. We're all paying the price right now. It's tough for everybody. So have faith in the board that they're gonna do the right thing. We try our best. Thank you.
Like we said, we have no special projects, nothing yet, so June 30th hits, that 11 million will be what it is, but Bree, go ahead.
So it kind of goes on to piggyback with that, so the timeline. So June 30th, so July 1st, books close, but they are still auditing in
August.
in August. So then it's September 1st when that's done. So similar to this year, when taxpayers saw a hike in December, potentially, they would see that's when they would see the 11 million go back into.
I believe it's the December.
I think Maria will have some specifics, but that's my understanding is they will see the relief or the impact of that in the December, January tax bill.
Is that correct?
Regardless of when we make this decision and offer that money, it would still be the same date of impact.
Yes,
Yes.
that does
Yeah,
not
so
change.
the tax rates get set up by the Division of Revenue Administration in October. So once the DRA receives the MS-25, both the DRA and the Department of Education get together, look at all the numbers, and then the Department of Revenue goes through the tax setting process in October. So that will affect the December bill, the December tax bill. Another thing that I want to make sure everybody understands here and in all the taxpayers is that $11 million is a projection. It's a lot of assumptions behind the projection. There's no human being power to predict that number. It's a lot of ins and outs. We have a $85 million district, which is a lot happens in our district. So that's a very good faith projection, but it is a projection. So the number can go up or the number can go down depending on what we're facing in this last month of the.
Jack, did you have something?
Do we have to make a decision? I for some reason, and I can't remember which fund it was, I know it wasn't the emergency fund, didn't we fund something at the end of last year? It was relative to like some type of reserve fund?
Yes, so that will come, that will come probably in the next meeting, where you will, is the retained fund balance, which
so-
is the 500,000. We can go up to 5%.
5%, that's what I was thinking of.
But historically, we just have retained $500,000 on that.
And I
We
think
don't
that's
Once
the,
we
and I think
know-
that's the number that the boards have continually put back.
Yes, I will need a motion to retain it, but yeah, historically has been that.
And we can do that after the 30th, or does it have to be done before the 30th? I don't even know when the next meeting is.
We can do it really at any time, if you want to make a, if you are said that the $500,000 is what you want to retain and you don't want to retain anything else, then we can make a motion tonight if you want to, or if you want to discuss it and wait for better information, it's fine too, but like I said, historically, it has been $500,000.
Hold on, Jack, brief.
I just wanted to reaffirm something. Justin said that CIP met and there was a 600,000,
584.
sorry, roughly, balance that had not been utilized but was assigned and intended for CIP projects. And that was due to diligence on the board of prioritizing. And so when we are thinking of this motion, maybe we consider that portion so that we aren't touching the unassigned fund, the surplus fund, but we are still maintaining improvement funds.
That 600 is part of the,
Yeah, but just to be clear, that will not roll into next year. Once, if we do not utilize that capital, those capital funds this year,
But I'm saying, could we retain the 500,000?
Yeah, that's completely different. So the 500 that we retain is the retained fund balance that can only be used in emergencies. The capital money that was voted for capital improvements, and the money is there if you guys decide to to go ahead with projects for that specific purpose that the money was voted for, then it's fine.
I know there are no RFPs or big budget items out from CIP committee meeting. We're pretty upset and defeated that that money would not be utilized.
so one of the things that we talked about in the CIP meeting was why those monies to a point were left over. We had different pools of money that we were drawing from. And to do things like the windows, we borrowed from Peter to pay Paul, we eliminated some projects or deferred them to a later date. And that is in part why some of those funds were unused. It's not that we don't, I can point to 10 projects around here that are, in my opinion, critical, but deserve the due diligence before we can pull the trigger on any of those, so it won't happen this year.
Like Maria stated, that $500,000 is something that the boards have done every single year, but we don't have to decide on it tonight, so I would say for the board just to wait. And just hold off, because I believe also too, there was a warrant article for the retainer of the emergency fund, was there not? It's designated by, like, it went to the towns to vote for it for the
That
fund.
was last year,
Right.
and that's the 500,000 that Justin referred, that is going back.
Right.
Because that was an additional 500, it was a
Right.
separate warrant article
Okay.
that we did, this year, but
Yep.
last year.
Yep.
So that's the one that is kicking back.
Alright, cool. Does anybody else have any other questions for Maria or Justin related to the unassigned fund balance? Again, no other projects or anything are coming forward, so that money come June 30th, it'll here's what it is. Okay, thank you.
Maria.
Thanks, Maria.
Thank you very much. RFPs. Got a couple, don't we?
Carl's been waiting for an hour and 16 minutes.
We don't want him
Watching the
driving in
power
lousy
go
weather.
off at all the buildings.
I know,
We have no
right?
power in Atkinson, we have no power at Sandown Central, so
We still have power here though. Hi, Carl.
we did blip here, but yes. Good evening, everyone.
Hi, Carl.
As you're aware, I'm going out to for RFPs for a lot of things lately. The first thing that I'd like approval for is the building automation and HVAC controls maintenance agreement. Control Technologies has been a valued partner with us for over 20 years. They're involved in the upgrades that we're doing with all our controls and everything that we're doing at the middle school, high school, Danville right now, and future projects at the other schools as well. I did ask for so that they were the only one that came through the walkthrough, and they were also the only one that bid. The price has gone up, and I'll explain. Like Danville, we've added almost 300% in controls there so that we can better handle our HVAC up there. So that's why the prices are going up. So the total base bid was $57,198. That's an annual. I did ask for a 3-year commitment, and then with the option to also move forward with them for 2 additional 1-year terms. I did ask for an ad alternate. As you know, I've been hounding you about Pollard Elementary School not having any. I don't have any visuals of that. I could sit here and show you every school, what everything's doing in all of them right now, but I can't show you anything at Pollard. We have to physically go over there and log on to a system to do it. I asked for a cost to just put what's called a Jace. It's pretty much a controller that talks to everything that's out there. It would take the place of a thing that's running on DOS right now. I'd really like to upgrade that just so that I can look at it for now. And then, of course, as part of the lease, we're planning to upgrade all the controls at that building as well as the HVAC and roofing projects. So I'm asking that we add that to the it's a $26,500 ad. And I'm recommending that we move forward for the total one-time cost of $83,698 with a continued annual cost of $57,198 for the 2 additional years with an option to continue for the 2 additional 1-year options.
So without the addition of the 26, it's the 57.
It's the $57,198.
Anybody have any questions about this bid?
Is that coming from the lease or is that coming out of CIP?
It's my budget.
That's your budget and it's,
Is it unusual that we would only have one company prepared to, give us an estimate on this?
No. The reason being is different companies bring their own controls. As Johnson Controls would come with Johnson controllers. Train would come in with Train controllers. They would want to switch everything out at some point. Train did give me a call and said, would we be willing to look at, and I says, I doubt they're gonna go for a multi-million-dollar upgrade to get you on board. So they said, yeah, we probably won't be bidding then. I did say I'd give them a fair shake if they showed up. I've dealt with them several times, so. But yeah, it's not unusual.
Once you lock into somebody, it takes a lot to.
You're not gonna
go
get
another
Siemens to
direction.
come in and take over
Yeah.
Johnson Controls and stuff like that. And Control Technologies is big in this neighborhood, in our area. They do a lot of the schools in the state. I've had them at 2 of my schools so far, so they do a good job.
Yep, go ahead, Jack.
So, Carl, why don't you speak to the public specific, I always get like hard time around spending all this money on controls, especially what we're doing in some of the other buildings. Explain to everybody the advantages of this and why we need this.
So one of the things is I can get alarms when something happens at one of the schools, or if an HVAC has a freeze that trip and therefore the AC shuts off of the heating system. I get notifications when a room is cold. I can show you the temperatures in every single classroom at the middle school, Danville, and no, I can't tell you anything at the high school. Everything's ripped out right now. But and I can see it and evaluate.
You can see the value when, burst pipes, you'll know it the minute it happens. Am I looking at it?
I don't know if
Or
it-
not burst pipe,
but
but
yes, I will see when a unit is failed immediately. I get alarms, I get texts to my phone from the system. It's
You brought up EEI. Are we getting those reports yet, or does it happen at the end of the project?
we've gotten one to show how it works, but we have not gotten them yet. I can ask for them to start whenever, but it's
Just wanna be nice to get those updates.
I can get one by the
to see
July meeting, I'm sure. If you'd like to see it, it's pretty intense, and then I have to follow up by going in and reprogramming stuff, but yes. I would also like to show anybody that's interested the system. I can show you at the end of the meeting, I'll have it up here, show you what the middle school looks like right now. It's not perfect, we're fine tuning some of the graphics, but it's pretty amazing.
You don't have any other questions for this RFP?
So your staff currently, is there enough to have one in every single building
One what?
person?
No,
So you would need controls everywhere.
Cause you can't be everywhere.
right, and we only have one technical HVAC person right now, so
They would need to know where to go.
he needs to know where to go. And technically, it's a tag team between me and the current HVAC. It's a temporary position, and he and I tag team. He works nights. I work during the days. I'm the one that's checking all the controls to make sure everything's working. I'm opening work orders, and he comes in and addresses them at night. So that's how things are going. So I spend about 2 hours a day going through every single system, making sure everything's working properly. Except for Pollard.
Alright, we wanna make a motion to approve the bid from Control Technology Inc. for $83,698
For the first year with continued annual cost of $57,000 for the 2 additional years. So moved.
So moved.
Alright, motion made by Ken, need a second? Second by Don, any other discussion?
One quick question,
Yeah, go
Carl. Why
Yes,
is
sir.
it so much the first year and then less the second 2 years? Are they doing something that in the first year?
Yes, sir. As I explained.
I missed that. I
yes, sir.
missed that.
They're going to be adding a Jace, which is the
Okay.
controller at
That's right.
Pollard, so that we can start monitoring that.
It was a long time for me.
Thank you.
Alright.
Thank you.
Motion made and second, any other discussion? Alright, all those in favor? Opposed? Alright. Next.
I'm scrolling.
Yeah, I am too. Cabinets.
This is still the
Cabin
entry,
tray
I'm still in the
upgrades.
control, sorry. It's a lot of paperwork here.
It's on page 79.
Thank you. Actually, what I wrote is. So as part of the CIP, it was approved to move forward with cabinet replacements at the middle school family consumer science classroom and also at Danville Elementary, some of the classrooms and teachers room and OT-PT room. We went out to bid. Unfortunately, we only had one proposer show up for the walkthrough. It just happened to be the company that been putting cabinets in the district for multiple years. It used to be School Specialties, but they've got they were bought out by Hertz Furniture. It's the same people I've dealt with there. They did the walkthrough and they came up with a proposal for Danville classroom teachers workroom. The OT PT room was $25,246.69 for the cabinets and $13,001.74 for the installation. Family consumer science classroom was for the cabinets was $36,287.68, and the installation was $7,407, and the total base bid was $81,943.11. I did the original request in the CIP was put in long before I got here. But when I went down there, I noticed they skipped a whole wall of tall cabinets, and they're just as unsightly as the rest of the cabinets. So I asked them to give me a quote for that. So the add alternate to replace the standalone cabinets in the family and consumer classrooms was $16,626.16. So the total with the add alternate is $98,569.27.
Bree?
Does that add alternate, cause I see a supplies and installation, does that include both supplies and installation?
I would have to assume it does. I don't know for sure, but these are stand-up cabinets right on the wall, so even if it doesn't, it's very simple.
Secure them, anchor them?
If they didn't, we could do it in-house easily, but I'm sure that was included.
Would you install these in-house?
No. I don't have time. We don't have time. We're doing so much this summer, there's just no way.
Kim and then Jack.
I don't wanna go down this rabbit hole, but I will. When you're replacing all the cabinets, do the bases stay? And then I'm thinking specifically about the floors in those classrooms. So
No,
do you have to-
we're gonna replace the bases in there.
Okay, but it doesn't disrupt the floors that are in there?
Should.
Thank you. Jack?
The cabinets were disgusting. It needed to be done. So thank you. The other question I have is, we got another RFP with one bidder. Do we reach out to local cabinetry companies? Or is this very specific in the scope? I mean, a cabinet is a cabinet, it's a
I
box.
can't
whatever.
remember exactly who I mailed this one to, Jack, but I know I put it on our website. I sent it to Hertz Furniture. I think I reached out to another one, but I'm not sure.
So let me ask you this, there's a couple cabinet makers in the district or just on the border of the district. Do we reach out to those vendors with the telephone call?
I don't know who they are, so I don't know.
Talk later.
I
That's fine.
I can just say that
I'm not, I just wanna
I can
get as
just
many
say
people
that
involved for the spirit of
school-
competition.
School Furnishings has worked with me at multiple different districts over the years because that's what they do. They were School Furnishings, now they're Hertz, but these people I've dealt with them for years, so that's why I trust them and know what they do, and I know their product is good. Plus, the school district has used them prior. They did the whole science classroom at the high school and several other locations throughout the district. So I'll reach out to whoever you'd like, but I just don't know.
It's informational. I get as frustrated probably as you do with getting one
It was
vendor.
great, cause I didn't have to walk through all the different towns, cause they already knew what was going on, because they helped write the specs, so. But that's the only thing that makes that easy. But yes, I know.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions for this RFP? So can I get a motion to approve the recommendations for the Hertz Furniture System for the cabinets for $98,569.27? So moved. Motion by Kim, do you have a second?
Second.
Second by Dawn, any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained. All right.
Thank you.
All right, next is the varsity softball field maintenance. Page 104.
So varsity softball maintenance, this project was actually gonna be done before the season, and then the policy changed, so I put a hold on it and we went out to bid. The company that is the lowest bidder was also the one that helped us write the specs for it, because they were the ones that were gonna do the work, just based on what they do. This company also was the one that was just out here core aerating, slice seeding, and top dressing for us. They had 6 pieces of equipment here, low ground load equipment. They know what they're doing. They do the Red Sox. They're getting ready to do, I hear they're going to change Gillette from AstroTurf to grass. It's just a rumor right now, but they're talking about doing that.
I gotta laugh at that. That was good, Jen.
It's just a rumor I heard. But anyway, they're a very special company that works, that's done work with us before and has worked with us, for the past couple of years since I've gotten here at least. They help us with the stuff that we can't get to because we don't have the equipment, or the staffing. They had, like I said, I think it was 6 tractors out here the other day doing that core aeration, top dressing and slice seeding. It took them 2 days. It would have taken us all summer, and the timing is of the essence when we're trying to get grass to grow. So, thank you. We did have 3 vendors walk with us that day, and all 3 gave a bid. And as you can see, Sports Turf Specialties is the lowest bidder, and I recommend that we move forward with that for $25,140.
Yeah, the other 2 bidders, the Rad Sports was $35,365 and the Mission Turf LLC was $41,000. So this was definitely the lowest significant bid. Anybody have any questions for Carl?
I do.
Let's check real
Yeah,
quick.
well,
I do.
you know what,
Hold on.
I lived on those fields for 15 years, so no one wants perfect fields more than I do. I'm just wondering how bad we really need this, where I see, there's a lip on the edge of the infield which retains water, which creates plant growth in the infields. At the end of last year, every one of our fields, softball, baseball, they were just completely green. They were completely overgrown. I know for some unknown weird reason, we have Canadian fescue growing in the infield of the varsity baseball field. How bad do we need this? I know we had puddles out there. I know during part of baseball and softball, you play in the spring. Part of that is you get rained out. It's the nature of the beast. And I'm not too sure I want to do this. I love laser shot fields, but I want to see us managing and maintaining. And again, it comes down to priorities for me. We had an extremely rainy season this year. I think that's fair to say, an inordinate amount of rain. How many games did the gals lose, the young ladies lose because of rain? And, how bad is it?
Well, I can tell you that they played a lot of the varsity team played a lot of their games on the JV field because the varsity field wouldn't dry out because it's pitch strong. We need to there's a few things. First of all, the greenness, the grass growing on the infields. There's a couple things that cause that. Years and years of rhododendron, the grass back into the field. You're putting organics into that infield mix, so that it just gives it more stuff to grow. What we're planning on doing is taking that bad mix out, putting in good mix, edging it, getting rid of that lip, laser grading it the proper direction so that the water runs off into the outfield instead of staying on the infield, so that it dries out faster, so that we can play on it faster than we
To
can
your
now.
point, it used to drive me crazy when they rototilled the weeds back
Back
into the
into it,
ground, right? It was just
Adding-
adding backwards. My question to you is, if you're gonna get that new infield machine, which I think is a very smart thing to do, because if you don't, you're gonna have to hire 3 laborers to rake out the fields, right?
That's correct.
So add that up. If we would put down new mix and kept running that machine over it, would that solve that problem with all the organics in the?
It would help, but we're also gonna be starting to look at other other products that we can put down there to prevent the regrowth when it's off season. So we don't have to get out there and drag it all summer long. We're gonna be putting a product called Crew out there, and that sets, what it does is it sets a I don't wanna call it a cloud, but it sets like a film over the top of the infield. So as the weeds try to grow, it prevents it. But the problem is you have to keep people off it when that happens. But not too many people use the softball fields in the summer, so we'll
And I
be able
think-
to.
I think the important thing there that will get missed out there in TV land is that you expend those funds so you don't have to spend as much time and save labor costs. Is that a fair analysis of that?
Pretty fair analysis, Jack.
Bree and then Ken.
I had the exact same thought as Jack, so I actually reached out to the athletic director and asked in the past 3 years how many games had to be canceled because of rain. And it was several, where away people actually arrived on a bus and had to be sent home. Several occasions over the past few years. So there definitely is a drainage problem and there definitely is a concern. Our JV was being utilized by varsity, so then our JV couldn't play. It was a mess on several occasions, so I did look into that.
And I will tell you, JV does have a distinct issue. Everything on this field out here goes to the JV girls softball outfield at about 160 feet out. That's within the playing surface, so there is an issue that's gonna have to be taken care of there sometime, but that's drainage or re-pitching the entire athletic field on JV. This is a totally separate issue though, but I wanna make you aware that it's groundwater out there in April. We had 11 inches of rain this year. We put pumps out in that left field. We dug a hole to try to collect more water and we had a pump running for 4 days straight and couldn't keep up with it. It's groundwater.
Hold up, it's Bree and then Kim.
That was mine. That was just, I actually support this.
Kim, and then Dawn, then Jack.
This whole softball field, all of this went through CIP, right?
No, this is my maintenance. This is just general maintenance.
Right.
This is just something that we have in our budget, and we had money in our budget that we wanted to do this maintenance with.
Okay, all right.
You could look at it this way, what went through BudCom, was approved by BudCom, went to the voters, was approved by the voters, it
Thank
sits
you.
in the operating budget.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
But because of the cost being over the $20,000 threshold, I had to go out to bid. Otherwise, you guys would have probably never known this happened until you said, oh, look, the field looks nice out there.
Thanks, Dawn.
As long as we, that area is so low, the water table is not far from there. You're gonna have drainage problems forever there, beyond what you grow there.
Yeah.
You have problems unless you have some sort of a drainage plan. Some of the stuff we did for the football area, we probably didn't extend to that area. You know, it'd be great if we could find a way to run more out towards the new pond, and save. It's like an impossible task, I think, to try to keep that area dry.
So that was kind of my question, in lieu of everything you just said. I'm not trying to second guess it, but does it make sense to put and I've seen these on baseball fields, do we have like one particular area that it turns into a pond?
Just in the left field of softball.
So does it make sense,
Yeah,
do we have any perimeter drains around those fields? I looked at it and I'm like,
Not,
this water's gotta go somewhere.
not over here, no.
Cause I was gonna say, put a literal 6-inch drain and run a pipe out to wherever. And that would take the water right away, but is that
Big expense.
for a 6-inch pipe? I'll go out there and do it for cheap.
I've seen your work, Jack, no thanks. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, here's how I'm gonna vote now.
It was a softball to me, buddy, I'm sorry.
Jack, you
I'm
walked
so
right into
sorry.
that, my man.
I'm so sorry, that was a softball, no,
right.
no, we'll definitely.
That's good, that's good. Again, all right, so we have a RFP, we have a recommendation that I've heard from other people in the community and especially past people who've played on that field, that that's a swamp that needs to be fixed. This is one step in the right direction to fix it. So we have a recommendation. Do I have a motion to accept the recommendation for sports turf specialties for $25,140? So moved. Motion to have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Bree. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? Opposed? And abstained. All right. Thank you, Carl. And I think that's the last one, right? Yes, just 3.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carl.
So sorry, Jack, that was such a softball, I couldn't hold
He
back.
pumped it.
I will get even.
He did.
I will get even.
All right. Administrators report.
Thank you for the laugh and chuckle, Carl.
You're welcome.
One,
Taking this out.
that was pretty good.
It was.
One update on the ad hoc committees, and then I have a couple of just kind of fiscal pieces I would like to point out to the board. So we got 2 ad hoc committees, one for kindergarten, one for early childhood education, kind of provided some updates that they've started that initial work. They're at the stage now where they've drafted a survey that they're going to be soon kind of blasting out to all kinds of constituents. It's really going to have 2 pieces. There's going to be membership opportunities that we want people to keep their eyes open for, but also some more specifics in terms of tasks and what that work would look like. So just putting everyone on notice to kind of expect that soon, and there's going to be a group of people that will get larger to start thinking and planning in those directions. They've got their charge, and just to recall, they'll be back to the board in the fall to report out with some recommendations with some specific categories. Fiscal pieces moving forward, want to let the board know that Timberlane received its IDEA allocation. That again is federal money that's coming to support our students that are in need of special education. That is around $1 million figure. That is consistent with the historical past. So we're not seeing a loss there, but it's going to be kind of what it has been. And Kelly and her team are going to be on point in terms of writing activities that they'll be submitting to support staffing, programming, or any services that are needed around those ends. So we're happy with that result. I also want to just give some thanks to Carl, not for the jab at Jack, but that he did submit the LCHIP, or the Community Heritage Investment for the Belfry over at Atkinson. So that was submitted, and we're going to look forward to kind of hearing what that is going to be supporting at the Belfry, and hopefully giving us some financial relief to do that historic work that I think by the bylaws,
Yes, the articles.
the Articles of Agreement
Articles
is
of
required for us to kind of caretake and move in that direction for care. 2 things that I want to point out that I think are really good that have happened. I talked about transportation costs earlier tonight with regard to special education and how discreet and maybe volatile it can be with tracking those things. I really wanted to recognize Kelly Brooks as she's been seeing those invoices coming in. It's one more thing I want to share with the board that we can do in the administrative end to take each dollar that comes through here. And she did a tremendous job of cross-checking what we saw as data for those services and compared it to what we were being invoiced from the bus company. Saw some discrepancies, certainly not paying for services that were not rendered. We were able to meet with the bus company today and resolve all of those things, and we'll expect some new invoices to be sent this way that will be more accurate reflecting the services rendered and come at a lower cost figure. So one check and balance mechanism that we have here. The other thing I want to point out, RFPs as well. Carl did a good job tonight, but Jack, your point about sometimes it's frustrating when there's only one bidder, there's only one person coming for the walkthrough. That also happened with the tuxedos. If you remember, Kurt was here before looking for band uniforms and choir kind of tuxedos for performances. He went out to RFP for those tuxedos. He only got one bid. He thought he could do better, so he cold called some companies and was able to find someone that we were able to go with that was at a much less dollar figure for what that bid was. So again, things that we can do on our end for checks and balances and taking the initiative to go find really competitive costs. 2 new RFPs that are out there right now. One is for projectors in the classroom. And the other is gonna be, I think Carl talked about it tonight a little bit, but for grass products and looking for a multi-year agreement to kind of take care of the athletic fields. And I will close with talking around the RFP performance. Carl in his group is certainly writing more of them than they have in the past. I've had really good conversations with some community members that feel like they've got some expertise in that area of writing, and they're looking to maybe partner with us and give us their talents around pro bono in terms of helping us with the magnitude of things that Carl is now tasked to put out. So if any of that comes to fruition, I'm happy to come back. I'll give you some updates, but really appreciated those conversations with members of the community that are looking to partner, add, and give us some value of what they have expertise out in their own sectors of work and life.
That's great. That's awesome.
At this current stage, do we have I don't wanna say policy, but procedure around if there is only one or we don't get the 3 bids on an RFP, and do we have to call until we get through? Do we have to at least call 2 more to see, or some type of kind of checks and balance
I don't
system?
think anything like that is in the policy.
No.
And then
Because-
also
believe
who should be making those calls? Whose jurisdiction does it fall under?
Yeah, so historically, because I did this again for a living and participated in a ton of RFPs, both at the state, federal and local levels. A lot of times you can put the RFP out if you only get 1 bid or 2, depending on the time factor that you gotta get it in. You can put it out to bid again and then do some due diligence, and like for the cabinets, right? You probably find more. Whereas with the controls, you're pretty much hamstrung. There's only a few companies that do it, and we're kind of tied into that one company. So as much as you would like to have 10 bids, you're not going to. You're gonna have one that makes any logical sense, but you can go back out again. The way that policy is written is that you should reach out to industry sources, it says it in the policy. So originally we had 4 or 5, like the Dodge Report, these places where everyone puts all their bids, only to find out that 1 or 2 of them may no longer be in existence, I think you said, Justin.
Yes.
Right, okay, so all I ask is for the administration to put the best foot forward and do their best effort to get in as many numbers as possible. So it is time consuming, but it also saved the district a lot. I mean, look at some of the bids. We've had contractors come in at 50% less than the next low bidder, to the tune of, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I think that the exercise I think it's a great process, and it's something that's fairly standard in the business world and in running the state, and it's a good control to have.
But I think what to Bree's point though is that like, so for instance, the maintenance would, Carl was just up here, so would that fall for the RFPs and stuff, would it fall under his jurisdiction to be the one to cold call people, or is there someone in the SAU
How's
to
it
do
working
it?
right now is that when the RFPs come in, the board's not obligated to accept any of the bids.
Right, correct.
Right, but your job, our job is to present a recommendation, and your job is to either approve or accept that recommendation. No one's bound to any of the bids that come through. What's been happening now is that when Carl gets these things, when Ken gets them, when Kirk gets them, they're connecting with me and letting me know this is kind of the results of that. We're either gonna recommend this, or I think we can do better over here. But every ask is different, right?
Okay.
The tuxedo ask has no timing to it. There's no sequence that Kurt needs to worry that something happens before and after. It's a little different when you're dealing with facilities that need to have things happen in a specific order to be most cost effective. So I don't think it's something that we're able to do for everything, because some things have to get done so the next thing can get done in a timely manner. But in the avenues that we can, we're certainly going to pursue them.
That is your question.
I don't have anything more tonight.
Does anybody have any questions for Justin about anything that he talked about? Next up is gonna be personnel report, and Fran, I do believe that we approve them electronically due to our summer hiring policy, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
June 14th, do need to be read into the record, but they've all been approved. And then before you have the June 20th.
Okay, and so the June 14th just needs to be read to the record, but then the second one, we actually have to make motions in a second, okay? Does someone want to read these into the record for me?
Oh, God, I understand.
I know, right? Go for it, Kim. You got this.
Okay. Do I say I approve? We approve it?
You just read them into the record. So just
Okay.
say Christine Martin.
Christine Martin, Director of Operations, Special Projects SAU. Andrew Ferguson, Special Education Teacher at Atkinson. Madison Ferrani, Elementary School Teacher at Atkinson. Maura Burns, Kindergarten Teacher at TLC. Professional Retirements, Catherine Mitica, Elementary Education, Sandown North. Thank you for your service.
Just to clarify, that was a renomination.
It was a renomination.
Oh, I'm sorry, there were no retirements,
That's correct.
Renomination. Catherine's not retiring at all. She's being renominated. Catherine Mitica, Elementary Education, Sandown North.
And thank you for coming back.
And thank you for coming back from your retirement.
Right. We have 3 professional nominations and then 1 professional resignation. So you'll have to make a motion. to accept
I'd
the
like to
nomination.
make a motion to accept the professional nominations of Sean O'Laughlin, English teacher for Timberlane High School. David Sagini, elementary teacher at Pollard. Andrea Simpkins, special education teacher in Danville.
All right, got a motion to have a second? Second by Bree. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Okay, 1 resignation.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the professional resignation of Stephanie, Lafreniere, the principal at Pollard School.
I have a motion to have a second? Second by Bree. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained. All right. And then Fran, do you have anything else to add for our?
Just we're knee deep in hiring.
It's a good thing to hear, though.
It is a good thing. So yes, we're making some great progress, but
Awesome.
yes, so.
Does anybody have any questions for Fran about the vacancy report or anything like that while she is here?
Just want to thank everyone for their service so far. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you, Fran. All right, committee reports. We'll start with Jack.
Oh, wow.
I didn't want to like put a list
That's
on
all
the
right.
spot.
You're in the same boat as Carl now. We had the CIP meeting. I thought that went
Yeah, CIP.
yes, yeah, I know, thank you.
I would love to talk.
So we had a very spirited conversation. I think it went well. We're going to work on prioritizing what we do. We're gonna want to work in conjunction with the facilities committee because those two are really intermingled, but really the prioritization of those lists are, we banded around a lot of good ideas and
Good.
meeting again.
And then you and Sandy talked quite a bit about policy. So you covered that
Yeah,
too.
we did. No, I mean, policy was, pretty much straightforward. And actually, at the last meeting, even though we didn't bring those things forward until this meeting,
Shauna,
thank you, talked about it at the last meeting, so not much to report there.
good deal. John?
I just want to say congratulations to Justin and Sandy and the administrative core that has helped us through this past year. It's been an interesting, difficult year of transition, new leadership and moving forward. And just very impressed with the smooth job you guys have done keeping the ball rolling. Thank you.
Very much. None of my committees, safety, not met yet. It'll probably be sometime at the end of August before school starts. Budget committee, again, those principals and everything are working with those walkthroughs, which I believe they're gonna tie to September. That's what it looks like it's gonna be. I was able to attend the high school graduation on the 8th and was able to speak, and that was just a really good, John Beckereza and his crew always do such a good job with that, and it went really well. It was a really good group of kids, very well spoken, all the speakers. Congratulate them for their hard work and, wish them luck on their next adventures. But other than that, that's all I have. Kim?
Sean and I went to 8th grade graduation. That was really fun. I always love going to that. I was very, very impressed with those kids and their speeches. Mitch did a great job. And that's all I have.
Great.
I am helping out in CIP.
Helping out.
Yep. And so June 10th we met. It was more of a workshop discussing mission and goals and the current fund levels. I did want to just make people aware that the fiscal year 24-25 kind of is already mapped out, and we're really looking to dive into the fiscal year 25-26, and our next meeting is to be determined.
Lissa, would you like to say anything?
No, I would not. I don't have anything to say because I didn't go to any of those meetings. I am glad to be here now, and I will be joining some of those meetings, I'm sure, soon. So,
Welcome.
thank you.
All right, do we have any other business at this time? Yes, Jack.
I'd like to apologize for missing some of the events because we have 13 new black lab puppies. If anybody wants to volunteer
Excuses,
for
sir.
feeding puppies, I'd like to have each board member
No.
fill out a time slot.
No. Do we have any other delegates and individuals? We do. Thank you so much. Oh goodness, sir, I cannot read your handwriting. What is your name?
Doug Jelena from Danville.
All right, floor is yours.
First, I wasn't gonna speak. I was listening to you talk and everybody was putting their 2 cents in how you plan on returning the money and whatnot. People put a lot of pressure on that. And Jack spoke and was very upset towards the group that I'm part of. And these people are rightfully upset because we went from a $76 million budget to a $91 million budget in 2 years' time. We were averaging for 10 years, 1.3 million increase a year. Then this happened, this growth. So you have people coming in here, I know you've seen them, you've listened to them, and you're very angry at it. I know. These people are, money's tight, they're trying to keep their homes, they're trying to keep making decisions whether they can afford to live in these communities or not. And I can tell you people are listening, because the majority of you spoke tonight had favorable responses on what your plans are. But just keep in mind for the ones of you that might be upset, that this is where it's coming from. It's a lot of money that was put on this community. Secondly, you mentioned there's a $500,000 project that you'd like to see happen. And if you could take the money and move forward with it, it'd be saving us money in the future. And I'd like to just remind you as a committee, put it to the capital improvement, follow the process. Let the capital improvement committee make a decision whether they can pursue it or not, whether the town can take the burden or not. But when you work behind the lines and shift money around to cover a big cost item, that's what gets people upset. That's what makes them organize and start to come to meetings and complain. They like to see transparency. So, I was talking to Kyle tonight, and I understand you guys have a lot of problems that you're taking care of. And when Kyle comes up here with these requests to do these projects, he explains himself very well. He brings a story with it that you follow it, you understand that this is good for the community. We should really pursue this. I understand that. And I'm gonna just ask you to do the same for the bigger projects. Take them before capital improvement committee. Let the towns have a say in it. And I think that's needed more and more as you go forward. But thank you for
Time, sir.
understanding what we're up against and what we're looking for. And I was very pleased to hear what a lot of you spoke tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have any other delegates or individuals? Nope. Okay. We do need to go into a non-public real fast. Can we make a motion? It's gonna be 91-A:3, so paragraph C. 91. just say, I make a motion to go into non-public under
91-A,
Colon three.
colon 3,
subparagraph C.
subparagraph C.
I got a motion to have a second. Seconded by Alyssa, coming in clutch.
There you go.
Could I get a roll call vote, please?
Cynthia,
Yes.
Doug Medworth,
Yes.
Katie Nielsen,
Yes.
Mormon,
Yes.
Bree Woodworth, and Alyssa.
Yes. All right, thank you, everybody. We're done. Yeah, we will not be back other than